Hey everyone, welcome to another YouTube live here. This is going to be for the public channels. Usually it's for the unlisted, but in this video we're going to go and just express our views for everyone to see, because sometimes we like to post not just BTC, but also the alts that we're looking at as well. So what I normally personally do is have 3 or 4 alts within each of the tabs here, and then my top right one is just going to be looking at BTC. So we have BTC longs, we have the monthly, weekly, and then a couple daily charts, and then the 4-hour, and then the 1-hour, and then that really gives me a good understanding of both the macro and micro patterns of BTC, so I can really quickly analyze from top down what we're able to find using multiple time frames. So overall, I like to use at least the daily, 4-hour, and hourly chart to assess the price action. So without further ado, we will talk about BTC for a little bit, what we did, and then what we're currently doing now, and then I will get into the other alts first. So overall, let's start back at the daily chart. We always go over the weekly chart on the bigger time frames, but we talk about it so often that hopefully you guys are well aware of what's happening. There's not much change that's happened. We do see a little retracement back up, but overall, the structure has not changed, so our bias and opinion stays exactly the same. So let's first talk about the daily chart on the CME Futures Exchange. So we see that initially we did hold that $8,600 support, which is just around here. We did break that, fall into our secondary support, which is at around $8,300, and this is the same level of resistance that we initially had after the push-up, breaking the descending resistance zone. So we got a push-up, held that initial zone as a resistance, pulled back to validate the previous resistance as a new support, and then made its solid impulse move. And what did we need after? We needed a pullback to validate the zone. I thought the $8,600 zone was going to be the area where we held, so we put a few longs on, got stopped out, and then now we entered back with a few longs, and I'll discuss the hedge that we entered from the break at this point, because we could have had a opportunity for the price to come back all the way, retesting the $7,800 zone, and that's all you put the short on. But we did get stopped out at break even. We didn't lose any money, but we were well hedged on that pullback towards the $8,300 area. So overall, still looks pretty bullish. Now, we don't see as much buy volume as we do the sell volume, but it does look like it's holding pretty well at the zone. We see a nice long wick and a bullish candle with the first wave of buyers entering the market. We could have a bit of a double bottom here. We initially test the bottom and then we come back and test it again. If we're able to see the buyers enter both times, it's going to look really, really good for our long bias. But for now, we just got a nice long position on a couple of alts, and we're just riding the wave up to see if we're able to retest those highs of the $9K, $9,100 area right at this point here. But for now, just looking at BTC, using it for sympathy plays on alts, but we don't really have a position on BTC just yet. So that's a look at the daily chart, and then this is going to be another exchange on Gemini instead of the CME Futures. And we see a very, very strong bullish candle right here after the bounce. So we had a double bounce on this particular exchange where we had the first bounce with that nice bullish doji. We came back for another wave of buyers to push the price up above the open of the previous candle. Very, very bullish, and it's basically right at our key zone of the $8,600, $8,500 area of current resistance. So overall, still looks pretty good. Let's just talk about it a little bit by using this snippet here. So we got a solid amount of buyers after we got the push and an exhaustion, and then this was an area where a lot of buyers are going to be located. We got a bit of a consolidation here, and then we got our big move to the upside. We did hit a key level of resistance. We can see that right at the $9,100 zone, previous level of support, previous level of resistance. And then back in the previous historic timeframes or previous charts, we can see that it's a key level of support and resistance as well. So overall, makes sense that we hit a key level of resistance. A lot of sellers here taking profits, a lot of short sellers. And then we got the pullback or the retracement to a nearby level of sensitivity. Whereas in this case, it's a previous level of resistance indicated by the zone right here, which will then create a next zone of demand. So that's the overall structure of the price action. I do still think that we could hit some new highs here, because this is a low, this is a higher high, this is a higher low, this is a higher high, and this is a higher low. So I'm expecting we could hit another higher high. So overall, I still think that the bullish momentum will continue. We could change that, obviously, if we don't actually break this zone right here. But overall, I am expecting the price to potentially come up a little bit of a pullback and then a push up to test the previous high of around 9K. So overall, still looks pretty good for our bias. And let's jump into the 4-hour time frame. The reason why I definitely think that we could come up at least testing the 88, maybe 9K range at a minimum is because it broke the market structure of creating lower lows and lower highs. So looking at it again, this was a high and this was a low. This is a lower high and then this is a lower low. So we're making clean lower lows and lower highs. And then we were short right here at the lower high, basically breaking a minor level of support. So we entered basically right here, looking to see if it would make a lower low, but it did not. It stuck and stayed above, or at least at the same level as the previous low, giving me an indication that the sellers are weakening and losing confidence, and the buyers are strengthening confidence, giving me an indication to potentially long in the market. And then we basically longed on other alts when BTC was here, and then we've been riding the little bullish push up from that level of support there. And then if we do get the price to come up to this level, that would be a pretty good profit for us. But overall, I am thinking that we will just hold on to our longs and then not really look for shorts until we see like a potential big pin bar here and then a lot of sellers within the volume. But overall, we don't really see much indication for us to short. So at this point in time, we're just going to be looking to long. So the fact that we didn't actually break this zone is going to give me an indication that we could see some demand come up here, and then this could be the nice healthy pullback we're looking for the next push up. So overall, this is the overall look or overall chart that I'm expecting, but we always want to keep an eye out and make sure that we have both sides of the markets covered. So overall, that is the look that that is the overall price action that I am looking to attain in terms of the bias. So I'm just going to stick with what I'm currently thinking of in terms of where the price will go, unless it gives me an indication that this is going to be a lower high from this point here. So on the hour chart, we'll discuss exactly what happened. We'll even go into the 15-minute to discuss our exact entry for this short. So we did end up closing this just below our entry point, so we don't have any profit, but we don't have any loss. So we're taking maybe commissions, fees, not a whole lot, but enough. So we're covering both of those. And then we have basically a break-even trade at this point. So we were expecting the price to potentially break this zone, but it didn't. It held multiple times and then it came up. It got rejected by this descending zone one more time with some wicks protruding out of the zone. We did not get stopped out there at that point, and we got it pushed down. I was hoping to see the price kind of fail and break, but we did not. And then we started to climb up and gain some higher lows. And at this point right here, I was definitely hedging and looking for longs, and that's where we entered our XRP position because we saw a break in the descending zone for Bitcoin, and then we already saw the break and retest for XRP. So this is why we entered long on our XRP trade. And then when BTC did pump up, we got closed with a break-even trade, and then now we're up on XRP. So that's a major benefit for using a hedge is you don't have to be right all the time. You can just manage your risk and gain some exposure both long and short, and then manage your risk very well on what's not working, and then let your profits run with a good risk reward system for the pairs that are running. So then you get to make some profit no matter which way the market goes. So that's the strategy that we used within this area right here. So overall, I think we could see a little push here. I am expecting obviously some zone of sensitivity for the $8,600 area because we've seen it used as a resistance here, support, all along here, very well respected zone of support. And then we got rejected here and we got rejected here. So we can see that it's a very key level on the chart. So there's going to be some reaction at this point. And this is exactly what we're seeing right now. If we're able to get above it, then there'll just be a lot more confidence for the bulls, potentially just pushing up right up to this key level here, which is going to be the next level of sensitivity, which is going to be around the 9K range, and then where we rejected last time, or I guess this is the 88 range, 88, 89. this zone right here, and then the final key zone that we're really looking for, where we got rejected very aggressively last time, is the $9K to $9,100 zone. So for us, that's kind of the area where we're wanting to take profit for our alts if the price does actually manage to push all the way up to that zone. And then if we are able to go above it, we'll look for long entries again. But at this point in time, that is the current structure that we're willing to try to speculate on. So basically, that's the final take profit, and we got a mid-range there. And then currently, we are in a zone of sensitivity, waiting for the price to push above the zone. And we don't have any trades on BTC, but this is we look for sympathy plays, and we really like to see how BTC is reacting to key levels in order for us to trade the other alts. So overall, that's what I'm looking at for BTC. And then now we can discuss the other current trades that we're in right now. So we are in Tron. We just entered Tron here after the nice bullish push from the retest. So let's go in and talk about it on the bigger time frames. Let's just go to the 4 hour here, and we can see even on the 4 hour we will get to the daily, but we're not going to talk about every single alt that we're trading, but just an overall view of what the alt market is looking like. We can see that we are looking like we pushed above a key level of resistance. We see that. Let's just get our snippet so we can talk about flow. So we have key level of resistance right here, key level of support, resistance, support, resistance, resistance, support, support. So this is a key level on the chart we'd like to identify. So then because it was used as a resistance last time and we broke above it, we're going to assume that there will be buyers trying to keep the price up above the level of support like we are seeing right now. So that's why I initially put the 2 lines there, and that's why we are longing from a support, because that's what we like to do. So going now to the 4 hour chart, we see that solid bullish push to the upside, and then we've held that zone multiple times on the chart, where we initially see a rejection here from the buyers, 2, 3, 4, and then we do see a little bit dip below, but the buyers are still taking charge, pushing the price up, not letting it go below our key zone of support. So it's looking pretty good for the buyers. And then we saw the price break a previous level of resistance. We see that right here. Resistance, resistance, and then all along here we see the price reject here as well. So this is a key level on the chart, and once the price broke this zone and then held it as a new level of support, that's when we looked to enter. And then we'll just hop in on the 1 hour chart here to discuss exactly what happened, and then even talking about it on the 15-minute chart, the small consolidation, and seeing all the buy volume coming into the market. So let's talk about this again on the 1 hour chart. We see the anchor point, which is right here, and then we see the first touch, and then we see a second touch with a very aggressive move to the downside after that second touch was rejected. And then we see a bit of hesitation before the price is moving up to the upside. We see a nice wick with the sellers pushing the price right back down, and then the candle after definitely took charge for the bulls and pushed the price right up above our rejection zone, which is going to be right here. And then we held there for a little bit with the buyers letting the or keeping the price up above our main zone, which is going to be right here. We see it was used as a resistance, resistance, resistance all along here, and then a key level of support all along here. Resistance, 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 support. So overall, very, very well-defined area on the chart. So then because we broke above it, and then we tested and made sure that we held there as a support, and then we're looking for a move to the upside at this point in time. And that's why we looked to long at that particular spot at that particular time. So let's now look at the 15-minute chart to see what the consolidation is currently doing. So let's zoom in a little bit more here and take that picture yet again. So at the horizontal zone, we first test it as a resistance, and then we have our first touch, which is going to be right here, and then we have our second touch, which is going to be right here. So we have 3 touches, validating it 3 times. That's going to give me enough of an analysis and enough of a confirmation and conviction for me to enter basically when the price closed this bear or bullish candle right there, where the price came down and then got picked right back up, showing me that there was a decent amount of buy volume coming into the market right around there. And at this point, we have given it quite a bit of room. This is our stop loss right here. So we're giving the price enough room so it could pull back and have a wick potentially come all the way to this zone here without getting stopped out. But if the price does come below the zone, I am going to get stopped out because I want to manage my risk. So this is the amount of risk that I'm willing to give, and I'm not going to lower it below where it currently is. But overall, that's a pretty good risk limit. And then just looking at the potential first level of take profit, looking at risk reward, we're looking at around 2 risk reward is the minimum that I like to have, that I always say. And then our second level of TP is going to be around 4. So on average, let's just say it's around 3 if we're doing 2 and 4. So let's look at why we took the take profits where we are. So we can see on the 4-hour chart, pretty well-defined entry point right there. And then our first level of take profit is going to be the first key level of resistance. And then the second one is going to be the second level of resistance right there. So that's the overall trade plan for this particular trade. Just going to wait it out and be very patient, only increase my stop loss to the break entry point, or the break even point, sorry. If we break and hit and trigger the first take profit area, then I'll look to push my stop loss to break even or a little bit above it, so I'm covering my cost of commissions as well. But overall, going to be very patient with this. And then our XRP trade looked pretty good. We got the first and second level of take profit already hit, so we're already in the green. I pushed my stop loss up above the break-even zone, so now we're in the green no matter what. And this is a pretty good trade. I'd like it to hit my last level of take profit, which is right here. So I'm going to patiently wait, not try to get out early. I'm going to give it time and give it some space so then it could do its thing. So overall, these are the 2 trades I'm in. I am looking at Link as well when we talk about that in a little bit. So let's go on the bigger time frames for XRP to discuss why I entered long in this particular trade. So let's just look at the 4-hour chart here and discuss this particular situation. I'll just close these. This was from a very long time ago short. So overall, the price was squeezing close together, and then we were at a major level of support. You can see that right here. So this was initially the zone I was looking at, is this middle zone, because we've used it as a resistance, as a support, and as a zone of sensitivity here as well. So this is why I was a little bit hesitant to enter long, but we did it anyways because BTC was looking a little bit weaker for our short, and we wanted a hedge. And this is the entrance that we got for our hedged position. And then BTC took us out, and this is just the only position that we had for a little bit there. So we had a small level of resistance right here. So it's going to be a next level of support. And then looking on the smaller time frames here, we do see higher lows forming, which is a bullish indication. But overall, we did have a horizontal support there that was tested multiple times. So we knew that there is a level of buyers here. And then there was a level of resistance, and we did have to anticipate that we would have some struggle getting above that zone. But it managed to push through, and we'll talk about that zone when we get into the smaller time frames here, discussing the squeeze and why we entered where we did, and then also the fact that there was that level of resistance right here. So this was that level of resistance we talked about. We see that there was a lot of hesitation. This was the 1-hour chart, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4 candles here. So we saw in a 4 or 5 hour span, depending on which ones you want to count, there was a lot of pressure to the downside, meaning there's a lot of sell pressure keeping the price below our key zone. And then once the pressure let up, the sellers just lost control. I guess the stop losses were hit for the shorts, and then the price aggressively pushed forward to our next level of take profit. And then our entrance was when we tested the price not just once, but twice. Ideally, we'd want to see twice. Sometimes I will enter if the pullback is very strong and there seems to be a lot of buy pressure. Like for example, in this candle right here, we do see that the pullback was not very strong because we saw the wick protrude out of the body of the candle, and then we closed pretty high up compared to where the actual price went within that single hour time frame. So for me, that's a pretty bullish sign. I just was not on the computer until we saw that second level of validation. So right when I went on the computer later that night, I said, okay, that's a pretty ideal setup because we have 2 zones of validation, and then the next candle closed green, and then I hopped into the trade right before I went to bed, and then we've been looking pretty good since then with a nice push, pullback, push, and then we are looking like we're consolidating a little bit more before our next push. So overall, looks good for a last level of take profit. I moved my stop loss above our break-even point. So this is a green trade, and I'm just patiently waiting, have my final take profit there, and not going to not going to do much, just sitting on my hands, patiently waiting for the price to push us or push up us one more little impulse push to our last level of take profit. So another alt that I'm looking at is both Ethereum and Chainlink, but we first will just talk about Ethereum as well. This was a potential hedge that we were looking at. Unfortunately, we did not enter. We were asleep when the price was consolidating here. From around 4 o'clock in the morning to around 7 o'clock in the morning. I was not up. I woke up a little bit later because it was a Sunday, and then we got our major impulse move, and then basically I was up at around 8:30 when I was already seeing the price push up, so it was a little late on my part. Unfortunate, but still happens. We got our nice entry from XRP, so we're not really worried too much. So this is a really good trade because we saw a very, very long-term descending support get respected, and then we also are seeing a squeeze from a minor level of descending support or descending resistance. So let's talk about the bigger time frame and just take out the small little details that we're able to identify here. So overall, I think this was a great trade. I just wish I was up to actually capture it, but we see that this is a key zone. This is our anchor point, and then we see a first level of resistance, and then we see a second level of resistance rejected very quickly, and then we see 1, 2, 3, 4, very, very strong level of resistance at that point. We see the price cleanly break the zone, retest with a couple wicks down, and then we see our first level of impulse move. Did actually get higher than the previous high, so that's pretty good to see. So overall, this zone is very well respected. I'm talking about this zone right here. Very well respected on the chart, and we can assume that it's going to be respected again if the price comes closer to the zone. So overall, just wanted to say that this is a key level. So if the price, when the price was squeezing close together, I definitely was thinking long for Ethereum. And if we do get a minor pullback, it still, I think, would be a pretty good entry. But overall, that's the reason why I thought we could enter long here, because of that nice squeeze. And then we see on the smaller time frames, there is a descending trend line connecting the lower highs, squeezing the price closer to the apex, which is going to be right here from the major descending zone and the minor descending zone, squeezing the price closer. This is the apex, and it has to make a decision. The decision was to move to the upside. We have not seen a pullback on the 4-hour chart yet, and that's kind of what I was waiting for on the 1-hour chart. So within this consolidation, I was expecting the price to potentially, not expecting, but I was hoping for the price to come back to around this level. Then it would have been a really good entry for me, but we did not see that yet. If we are able to see that, that would look like something like this for a trade where I have a very, very good level where I can risk off of. I have my first level of take profit at around 2, maybe up here, and then I'd have my maybe second level at this point at around 178, and I'd be really looking for that solid next level push to maybe higher in the 190s area. So overall, that's the look of my Ethereum trade that I have not taken yet. I'd still like to enter if the bullish momentum continues, but overall, I'm wanting to enter on a pullback, not a end of an impulse move. So we had the first level of impulse from the bullish pressure initiate this push, and then I'm wanting to see a pullback, and I want to enter on the pullback before the next push to the upside. So I don't know exactly how that's going to look like yet. I haven't seen any pullback, but we could see a nice little pullback because we see a lot of resistance here, a lot of support here, and a lot of resistance. So if we draw a little line here, this could be the zone. Oh, that's a really bad line. This could be the zone where a lot of sellers are going to be located. So I'm going to be patient. I already have long exposure. So we do see a little resistance at this point. A nice little pullback to validate this zone again. So it could look something along the lines of a pullback here, a nice little double top. And then once we break this little resistance, that would be possibly a good entry for us to go long again. So overall, that's my outlook for Ethereum. I'm not going to get too technical with it. I just want to see some pullback before I enter because it's a little bit overextended for me to enter long at this point in time. But we'll see how it goes. I already have some long exposure, so I'm not too worried in terms of what we are wanting to see in order to enter. So I'm going to be very, very patient and very, very picky because we already have long exposure for our entries at this point. So talked about Ethereum, talked about TRX. Not really going to talk about BNB because that's a short that I'm looking at, but that's only going to be if we see a pretty strong pullback. I would look to potentially enter this. It's a squeeze of, let's just talk about it here real quick. So it's a squeezing of the price where we have, let's just go back to the 4-hour chart here, and we can define this a little bit more clear using this zone here. So let's talk about it like here. On the 4-hour chart, what we can see is this descending zone right here. This guy, this big resistance, is the long-term resistance line, which is pushing the price down each time we see the price hit this area. So there's a lot of sell pressure around this zone. We also have horizontal zones where it's going to be a key level of supply, which is this area right around here. So there's a zone of confluence within this area where there's a lot of sell pressure. We also see an ascending trend line be used as a current level of support. It gets broken, get retested, validates it as a new level of resistance, and then pushes it down. And then we were looking for the price to continue, but it did not actually continue. So we know that there are buyers within the support zone, which is going to be around the $16 to $16.50 mark. So right around here is where the support is. So what we're looking for is if we do get some sellers to enter the market, this little move here could be our move to capture as a hedge because we are already exposed to the long side. So we have a nice retest again of this trend line, this ascending trend line. And we also have a horizontal zone you can see right here where it's a previous level of support and resistance. So we have a double confirmation of sellers around this area. So if we do see the price start to retrace back down and start to make a move to the downside, we know that there's going to be a lot of sellers at this area. The price is squeezing from the higher highs that we're making here, as well as the trend line that we're talking about, that this zone right here. So the apex is going to here, and if the price is going to move to the downside, we want to capture around here all the way to the next level of support, if not lower, if we are going to make a lower low. So overall, that's the outlook for the short trade that I'm scoping out if we do actually see some market corrections. But overall, I'm going to play the long side and just see how the current setups that I have are running, because if we are getting a little bit of a correction there, that is not to worry. We are expecting that, and that's why we're giving the price room on the XR or the TRX trade, and then the XRP we are giving the price quite a bit of room to breathe. So overall, already in the profit for that trade, and we do have a lot of room here. So ideally, we'd like to see that price hold that zone, and then that's a double confirmation, and then we could look to potentially add a little bit more. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the current entries that I have in the market. Link is something that I would like to add to, as well as Dash if we do see the right price action confirmation. So let's look at Link first. Going back at the 4-hour chart, we were talking about a potential move up if we break this key level of descending resistance, and let's actually expand it even more to the daily chart. So I am basically taking all my profits for this Link trade if I enter at this zone here, because at the around $2.80, $2.90 range, because we can see it's a key level of resistance multiple times, we do get a fake breakout or a fake out right here where the bulls pushed the price above the zone, retested with a very, very long wick protruding down, and then we slammed down with no real hesitation for the bulls to lose all confidence, and then we got a very bearish momentum move after that point. So overall, this is a key level that I want to be taking profits in, and then we saw a massive move to the upside. You can see that right here at the start of 2020, and then we're getting a very healthy pullback, and then we could see a move back up, and then I'm using the red descending trend line to identify where the shift in trend may occur. So that's why I am looking to long at this point, because we broke our descending trend line, which I will identify right now, which is going to be that red line right here, where you see the anchor point at this point, and then we see 1 rejection, 2 rejection, 3 rejection, and then we didn't really get much of a reaction at this point here where the breakout was. We didn't really see a small pullback and then a break or anything like that. We just kind of saw a break of the zone, which is totally all right, but that's going to signify that there are a lot of bulls gaining confidence, because we didn't really see much of a hesitation. The bulls just kept on purchasing the asset. So for me, it's looking like we could see a nice little pullback at this zone, and then the price to continue up, hitting our first TP, which is this zone right here, and then our second TP, which is at the highs, and that third TP is going to be if the wick just comes out of the high there. We want to capture that little wick for a little bit more of a gain. So that's the overall outlook for Link. On the 4-hour chart, we do see that this key level of support and resistance is now acting as our new level of support. We see that right here, and we'll talk about that on the hourly chart in a little bit more detail. So overall, let's just make this a little bit darker so we can see it within the chart. So we got a wider zone, which is going to be the bigger term, more, I guess, wider overall macro support and resistance zone. And then we see a more minor, smaller white zone within that zone, which is going to be the more granular detail. We can see that right here, key level of support, key level of support, resistance, 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 and then now it's acting as a support again. And then if we just extend that outwards, we can see that it's going to be another level of resistance. So overall, this is a key level on the chart that we've been able to identify from the previous historic price action. And then we've been able to break it once after the key break, which is right here, because we broke this key level of descending trend line. So we broke above this zone closing on the 4 hour. That's a significant break. And then once we broke, now we are consolidating, going sideways, because initially we need to get that correction so then the bulls can line up and buy up the pair to push it up again. So that's what we're looking for right now. We are able to see a pullback from this current point where we see one pullback. Ideally, we want to see one more pullback, validating the zone as a support, and then we'd look to enter long once we see the 2 levels of confirmation, and then we get to see the bit of momentum, then we're looking to enter. So overall, that's the outlook for Link. Let's just look at it one more time. We do see a lot of bulls coming in, buying up the pair, but on the hour chart, because we are already exposed to the long side on 2 trades, I'd really like to see the bulls push the price up, continue to keep it above the $2.50 zone for one more time. So that would mean that we want to see a red candle push the price back down and close red. And then we're looking for that bullish candle to come up and identify and indicate the next level of buyers still pushing the price up, still thinking that it's a good buy here. And then we look to enter because we have double confirmation, not just with the single candle, but with 2 bearish candles, picking the price right back up. So overall, that's what I'm looking for on Link. Pretty simple chart, pretty simple price action. I'm just going to keep it very clean and not going to over explain things because I want to keep it really easy to understand for everyone for this public overview of the crypto market. So overall, that's what I'm seeing in the crypto markets. I do have a nice little short that it could be a potential here on BNB. Definitely not looking to enter just yet, but if you are able to see maybe a potential move to the downside, and what would be a potential move or a potential entry is we're looking for a break in a minor level of support. Let's just extend this a little bit and then make it a little bit more precise. Right around there. Sure, we'll classify that as the bigger term resistance. So let's make that red. So what are we looking for? Let's just close this. We're looking for lower lows and lower highs, right? So let's say this is our key level within the chart there. So that is going to be our little squeezing area. So what are we looking for? Let's make the snippet there. So we see higher highs and higher lows, right? This is a low, this is a higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, and then these are highs. This is a high, higher, 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 high. So all these highs and lows are creating higher areas. So right now it's in an uptrend. We don't want to be shorting on an uptrend, or else we could just be entering here and then taking a loss. Definitely don't want to be doing that. We want to shift. We want to see it shift in trend before we look to enter short. So what would that look like? Well, this is a high. What we need to see is to see a lower high and a lower low form, and then we'd look to enter on the pullback. So let's just hypothetically see where the price action could go. So let's say this supply zone is going to be our key level. So let's say it pulls back here, retests this zone, and then gets rejected, does not make a higher high. So this is the key zone where we're not able to make a higher high. What we're looking for at this point is to see the price make a lower low. So this, let's say this is the first high, this is the second high, and then we see the price make a lower low. This is a low, now it's made a lower low. And then if we're able to make a lower high and keep that lower high, then we can look to potentially enter to make that second lower low, and then we're in a lower high, lower low downtrend, which is exactly what we want to see. So we want to see that market structure confirmation that we are entering in a new downtrend. We don't want to be entering when the market is going like this. We want to be entering when the price is showing indications that we're making a lower low, a lower high, potential entry for the next lower low, and then we want to give enough space so that if the lower high comes in, we're not moving our stop loss too far quick. We want to ensure that we have patience, so then the lower high is able to form, and then we'll get our next move to the downside, and hopefully at that momentum and that movement will at least hit our first level of take profit. So that's the structure that I'm looking for if we are looking to short, but overall we are not wanting to enter at a short. If we are just seeing higher highs and higher lows, we want to see confirmation that the price is going to shift to the downside before we look to enter. So overall, that's the analysis that I'm able to identify. So that's the overall scope of the crypto market, really. I'm not going to go on too much further. I think that is a good overall analysis of the market. We do have some nice trades here that we are in, looking pretty good. I want to enter long when the time comes, but for now, I don't want to enter prematurely. I already have a few long positions that are doing pretty well, and BTC does look pretty strong with the nice bullish candle closing on the 4 hour. We see that right here, and then the next candle is not seeing a lot of volume yet, but this could be a very short hesitation within our key zone of sensitivity, right around the $8,600 mark before making our next leg up towards the next level of resistance at around 88. So overall, pretty happy with the current setup that I have in terms of the two trades. I would definitely like to look to enter a hedge if the price does hesitate at around this zone. But until that happens, I'm going to stick with the trades and keep my hands underneath my butt and remain patient and just have no emotion within these trades. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you gained something from this analysis. And until next time, happy trading, everyone.